Hello, Earth Angel, and welcome to episode 34 of the Devotional Drip, a resurrection of self-acceptance. The Devotional Drip is a weekly personal development and higher self-embodiment coaching series to support creatives, leaders, visionaries, and light workers on their nonlinear journeys and devotional paths of healing, awakening, empowerment, radical self-care, and revolutionary self-love to support self-realization in relationship to themselves, their journey, the world, and their purpose work. My name is Sarah. If we have not had the pleasure of meeting, I am a spiritual and somatic coach, creative consultant, photo witch, dancer, multidisciplinary artist, devoted mystic, and higher self-embodiment doula, supporting visionary entrepreneurs, change-making creatives, and heart-based leaders through somatic, artful, playful, sensual, and spiritual portals into self-care that actually hits the spot. Empowered self-healing, sovereign self-leadership, trauma-informed spiritual awakening, multidimensional self-expression, and higher self-embodiment. If you find this video supportive, please like and comment with your biggest takeaways and revelations. I love to hear what comes forward for you, what resonates, what's helpful, what you discover through this process. And if you haven't yet, you can also subscribe to the Blood, Bone, and Honey YouTube channel so you never miss a drip, and you'll actually receive a notification to your email when we go live. So it'll be a nice reminder every week. And then last thing I want to invite you into, if you're not joining us already, is in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership. You can join me following this drip at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a corresponding higher self meditation to support you in integrating, digesting, and applying what you received today in this drip. And you can go to patreon.com/blood, bone, and honey to explore our membership tiers. And I will also link that in the description of the replay. I also want to mention that we have a corresponding weekly yoga dance class, a restorative yoga class, and a mind-body centering chakra flow that will correspond with what we explore today in this drip, which is a resurrection of self-acceptance. So we'll take that code, we'll take that invitation, we'll take that meditation through all of our other meditations and movement practices and journaling together this week, moving towards a Cancer full moon at the end of the week. We also have a private Discord community with a living practice library of all of the practices that we've offered in the membership since August. There's somatic movement prompts, there's somatic journal prompts, there's playlists galore, and a beautiful community of leaders and light workers that are weaving their medicine and magic together. That's also a great place to come connect after the devotional drip or after any of our live classes to share your insights and downloads. And it would be an honor and a joy to see you in that space. So let's get into our topic for today. This is episode 34 of the drip. We are meeting for the first time for the devotional drip since the winter solstice. Happy winter if you find yourself in the northern hemisphere, and blessings for your summer if you're in the southern hemisphere. Today we have a waxing gibbous moon in Taurus, growing towards a full moon in Cancer at the end of the week. We're currently also in the zodiac sign and the season of Capricorn, which is a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs initiate the beginning of the seasons. And in Capricorn's case, in the northern hemisphere, we welcomed in the winter solstice at the end of December, and now we find ourselves fully situated in the rhythm and the flow of winter. Capricorn is known as a visionary leader and a self-starter with the determination of the sea goat, who has the ability to swim to the depths of the ocean and also climb to the top of the mountain. I am a Capricorn sun, and next moon day is actually my 30th birthday. And I'm so excited to be giving episode 35 of the Devotional Drip next Monday. So you can join us for a very Capricorn infused episode next Monday. So the combination of earth and water with Capricorn suggests to us that Capricorn energy is both grounded and practical, as well as sensitive and creative in that connection with the ocean, with the water. And then we also have this Cancer full moon at the end of the week, which is deeply connected to water and the moon, which we'll get into in a little bit. As a reminder, we talked about this on the last episode of The Drip. In the major arcana, Capricorn is connected to the Devil card. And in this season of Capricorn, we are invited to get really honest with ourselves around the ways that we've chained ourselves up. And a lot of those chains represent things that we learned, things that were programmed into our subconscious and into our nervous system. And in Capricorn season, Saturn can be pretty ruthless in terms of bringing us in touch with those patterns and habits and ways of being. We're also currently in Mercury retrograde, which I'm also going to talk about in a little bit, which is a beautiful opportunity to review. So actually, we have this powerhouse of Capricorn season inviting us to ground, this Cancer moon inviting us into introspection, and then Mercury retrograde bringing us backwards so that we can scoop ourselves up, review anything that we may have missed so that we can move forward more integrated. I think it's really important to experience Mercury retrograde not as a punishment. And there's a lot of cultural rhetoric around like Mercury retrograde, this and that, when actually it's a really helpful energy if we work with it in our sovereignty, which means that we're meeting anything that's showing up in our lives as an invitation into more of our power, more of our multidimensional higher self-expression, not as a punishment and not from a place of victimhood. Capricorn and Saturn have no interest in the consciousness of victimhood. And in fact, they will, again, ruthlessly and fiercely point you to where that's actually you giving away your power. So when we're in the energy of this Devil card and we're being brought to notice where we've chained ourselves up, the meditation of self-acceptance and self-forgiveness and self-intimacy in that process becomes so important, because Saturn is calling us to recognize where we're recreating patterns and cycles of suffering in our lives. On the winter solstice, I was standing around a bonfire with some of my community, and I was just so deeply brought into the meditation and the reminder. I was having like an off emotional day. I was feeling really crunchy. There was just some stuff going on in my inner realm. And around this fire, I was just reminded like, oh yeah, I get to be the one in my lineage that heals this pattern, this cycle, this consciousness of suffering that I was navigating that day. And just that simple reminder of like, oh yeah, we get to be the ones that heal ourselves. We get to be the ones that heal backwards and forwards in our lineage. As we heal in the present moment, that's what's happening, because really all of life is existing on this time continuum, right? So when we heal and integrate ourselves in the present moment, we heal our past selves, we create new potentials and timelines for our future. And we're also healing our ancestry, because we are our ancestors. We are the culmination of our ancestors. They live inside of us. So I just am feeling like really called to get us excited about our personal job of healing, like the healing that we get to do in this life. Someone is commenting here in the chat. Thank you for joining us, taking notes. I've been hosting public art healing meetings, hosted about 5 at a lounge, and Brooklyn Heights last month, hosting again this week at both locations. Thank you. Great. Thank you, Terrell. So if anyone is in Brooklyn and in the city and wants to connect with Terrell, they're commenting here in the caption. And what a beautiful way to kick off this new year. I feel like the last couple of years, we've been deeply being initiated into the birthing of a next golden age, moving out of the Kali Yuga era of destruction into the beginning of birthing a golden age with a big energy of the age of Aquarius, reminding us, supporting us, guiding us, and prompting us from the inside out to create new systems, to build new communities, to, as this person is sharing in the chat, to show up and shine and share our gifts within in a community space so that we can exchange codes. Aquarius is an air sign. It's very interested in exchanging codes, exchanging information. It can move really fast. So, in the energy of a year that I think is just going to continue to move fast, and the pace is going to continue to speed up as the grid of the earth shifts and more light is pouring onto the planet, it's going to be so important to have those spaces that we can come together to do our healing, to be in community, to make art. So thank you for your work in this world, Terrell, and thank you to anyone else who is showing up and shining and sharing your gifts. It is such a big deal. And in the resurrection of our self-acceptance, like self-praise, self-celebration, self-acknowledgement is a part of that, because when we do that, then we're not looking for as much validation, praise, and acceptance outside of us, because we're clear and we're good with how it is that we're showing up. I'm just learning stuff from your teaching just now about Mercury retrograde I was not aware of. Yes, I'm so glad. Yeah, I feel so passionate about Mercury retrograde and the opportunity that it provides us. And maybe that's my Saturnian Capricorn sun nature. I love a little bit of like being domed by the divine energy, but because I think it can pull like deeply rooted patterns out of like the earth and the soil of our subconscious and really create space for new potential. I feel so convicted about that. So going back to my notes here, so we are being invited to recognize where we are recreating patterns and cycles of suffering in our lives. That is the gift of Mercury retrograde. What did you not scoop up last time? I think Mercury retrogrades 4 times every year. So this is also an energy that we can start to make love with and build intimacy with, so that when it shows up next time, we're the ones in the collective field and in the pattern actually welcoming and embracing this energy versus resisting. Because what happens when we resist whatever sort of like unearthed pattern that's kind of hanging out and clouding your vision persists. So we have to lean into the resistance. I say this a lot. It's like being in the plank and reveling in the shake and actually breathing into like the burn of the muscles building and working and finding pleasure in that shake, finding grace in the resistance, and using resistance as a tool, as an energy, as an alchemical mechanism to support you in moving forward. Because resistance is also here to serve us. Just like our grief, just like our pain, just like our suffering even. It's all here to serve us and point us in the direction of our potential and what it is that we want to create now. So I mentioned this morning on Instagram, and I think it's a great tool for Capricorn season. Watch when you're using the word should in your internal or external dialogue. Are there chains attached to the shoulding? Is there a way you're being invited to free yourself up? This week, as I mentioned, we welcome in a Cancer full moon on January 6th to dance with the energy of Capricorn. Cancer is also a cardinal sign, just like Capricorn, as it kicks off the summer solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere. So, with the energy of these 2 cardinal signs here kicking off 2 opposite seasons, we're actually being called into a deep energy of balance. Balancing with Capricorn our work life, our purpose work, our dedication, our devotion, our self-startership, our self-leadership. And then with Capricorn, we're balancing our home life, our relationship, our internal experience, our emotions. Cancer is deeply connected to the element of water, and it's actually governed by the moon, which I don't know if there could be a more opposite dualistic energy to Saturn than the moon. So we have almost like these divine masculine energies with Saturn and divine feminine energies with the moon coming in like these divine parents at the top of the year, really supporting us and guiding us and stewarding us towards our own internal and external balance. We're being invited to give ourselves a chance to rediscover at the basic foundational level. what are our needs, what are our wants, what are our desires and our dreams. After a few really big years of metamorphosis, ascension, and awakening, who are you now? And have you checked back in with, maybe your needs and your wants and your desires and your dreams look totally different than even 6 months ago, even the last season? How have you changed? Have you taken time to sit down and make peace with that change within yourself? Have you accepted these new parts that have awakened? And now that they have awakened and you have become more of yourself, not necessarily a different self, the process of awakening and ascension and revelation and resurrection is actually about becoming more of ourselves, about breathing life into the parts of ourselves that may have been shut down by conditioning or programming or experiences of trauma in our lives. So notice, maybe even taking a moment here to close your eyes and just tune into your breath, feeling called to bring us like into the deep belly, and just bring some breath there. And just spend a moment maybe saying hi, checking in, like sitting down with a friend for coffee that you haven't seen in a while. What about your metamorphosis feels important to acknowledge, affirm, and accept in this first moon day of 2023? And maybe you spend a couple of moments just reflecting and doing your research around that, and then record what you find in your research in your journal. You don't have to write out complete sentences. You could even just jot down a couple of notes. Maybe you write at the top of your page, 2023 is a resurrection of self-acceptance. And then do some research around the parts of you that have changed, the parts of you that have awakened and come into a more full, multi-dimensional expression. And then based on that, are there some new wants? Are there some new needs? Are there some new desires and dreams that your inner being, that your higher self is calling you to get in touch with? If you're in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership, we had a beautiful live coven gathering and intention setting ceremony yesterday. I'm going to repost the prompts that we worked with in our meditation journey and in our journaling in the Discord later today. So if you're part of the membership and want to work with those will be there for you, as well as the replay of our ceremony. So what a gift that at the top of 2023, we are simultaneously being grounded into reality by Capricorn and Saturn, but brought into the celestial realm and our inner realm through the energy of Cancer and the moon. I just can't speak enough to how loving that invitation feels. And we can choose, regardless of who's saying what on social media or whatever, we get to choose to meet the energy that is circulating from whatever point in consciousness that we desire. We are not being dragged around by the energy of the planets and the energy of even these systems of oppression that are crumbling now. We are sovereign, and we get to choose how we're going to interact with this energy as divine creators, as sovereign birthers, and as authors of our lives. Self-authority points to our self-authorship, our capacity to restore our reality. And I think it's so important to remember that we are creative, we are imaginative, we are intuitive, and we can create all kinds of stories in our heads and in our hearts. But at the top of this year, it's going to be really important to discern, is that story I'm telling myself actually empowering, or is it a form of opposite of self-acceptance, self-punishment? Again, devil card, self-punishment energy, chaining ourselves up in old stories and also old self-concepts, old beliefs that keep us trapped in a limited self-expression. Not even trapped, just in like the netting and the webbing. This morning I've just been seeing like cobwebs and like the energy of like netting and webbing, almost like matrix programming, like coming through as a net and a web that's not fixed, it's not stagnant, and it's not even like that much of a struggle to get out of. It just requires us to peel the layers back one at a time until we get to our own core. So Cancer is connected to the Chariot card in the major arcana. The Chariot card symbolizes new beginnings and moving forward, but it's also important to notice if you were to Google the image of the Chariot card or hold up an image. I actually let someone borrow my tarot deck, so I don't have the Chariot card with me today. But if you Google the image, you'll see that the Chariot isn't in motion. The Chariot actually has an energy of pause and rest and reprieve before moving forward that's associated with it. With the energy of Capricorn season, this Cancer full moon, and also Mercury retrograde, I think that it's such a wise invitation to work in alignment with the energy of this Chariot card that says stop, drop, anchor, ground, honestly assess before you move forward. So the Chariot isn't moving. It's in a motionless state, reminding us that before we start the journey, we have the sovereign divine right to chart our route. And in this balance of Capricorn and Cancer, there's also this invitation to not get too grippy with the route and the map and the plan that we create, because every good explorer starts with a map, right? But then they're also adaptable. And we explored this energy with the Archer, with Sagittarius in Sagittarius season. Like when we're going to go out to the edge of the universe and go on that journey, yes, we want to plan, but we also want to be in our self-permission, in our self-authority, in our self-authorship, and in our self-acceptance that we may make the plan and it may need to change. And our capacity to do that without taking it personally, without telling ourselves some story about being a victim of yada, 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 when we can just meet it in our sovereignty, in our power, in our authorship, in our creatrix capacity, in our alchemist authority to take whatever's in front of us and make more beauty, then we're working with the energy of life and creation, and also with the energy of death, because we're letting what doesn't serve us, we're letting what doesn't resonate die, knowing that letting that go and surrendering that is going to be part of the energy of creating new life, growing the new plan, growing the new vision. So there's an energy of contemplating our next move, and the grounding response able self-directed energy of Capricorn loves that. And then Cancer is like, are you checking in on your inner realm? Have you reconnected with your needs, wants, desires, dreams, and visions? How can you weave both of these things together? The grounded, practical, 3D Capricorn Saturnian part, we could say like root chakra energy, with more of the energy of the sacral chakra, the womb, if you have a womb, and then also the third eye, our intuition and our capacity to see the unseen, with the energy of the moon and Cancer. So I just want to point out how supported we are in the balancing of this energy and how we can work with that. Again, we're also in the midst of Mercury retrograde, so we're being supported in the review process. Don't make yourself begin anew before you've allowed yourself the space and the chance and the opportunity to process, digest, and create a clear path forward from your intuition. So creating a clear path forward, Saturn, from your intuition, the moon, Capricorn, Cancer. Because again, the moon is connected to the element of water and our emotions and our internal experience. So at this time, it's going to be even more important to allow ourselves to receive transmissions from the inside out, because with the energy of Cancer, there's going to be more pouring in. I've been working with highly sensitive, intuitive, and psychic folks for the last 5 years in my private coaching practice. And what I've come to witness through this sacred work is the importance of self acceptance. Self acceptance is required to turn up the dial on our intuition. If we're gaslighting ourselves out of our intuition, out of our psychicness, out of what we're seeing and receiving, because someone else outside of us says it's unrealistic or magic's not real or that's not real, or maybe it's a voice inside of us that we've inherited, that we've learned to gaslight ourselves out of our intuition. Self-acceptance is truly the medicine for that, because when we're doing that, it's a form of self-punishment. Devil card, chained up, punishing ourselves, restricting ourselves, not allowing ourselves to create from the intuitive messages, from the divine downloads and the transmissions that we are always receiving. We are channels. We are channels. We are source light. We are souls. We are our higher selves in these human bodies. We are the stewards of our mind, our body, and our heart. We are all of this consciousness integrating into physical reality. And in that process, I think it's so important to remember that we're always channeling and we're always receiving transmissions. So we're either operating from the tape recorder of the subconscious and just repeating whatever it is that we've learned, or we're present with our breath, we're present with our bodies, and we're living from the mystery, from the great mystery and the potentiality of the now, where even in this moment, I've got my notes here, I've got my little outline that I'm following, but I'm breathing and I'm receiving the messages as they come in and I'm translating them. And that's what we're always doing. We're like these divine radios receiving all of this information from the field. And then in our sovereignty and in our authorship, we're deciding, how do I want to receive that message? How do I want to integrate that message? And then how do I want to translate, transmit, and offer that message out into the world? What frequency are you giving off as an expression of life? So self-acceptance is required to turn up the dial on our intuition. It's also required to manifest. And it's also required to meet our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual needs at the foundational level. So let's talk about specifically this code of a resurrection of self-acceptance. If you haven't written that in your journal yet, you can write that now. I'm going to take a drink of water. And something that we actually talked about yesterday in our live coven gathering is reclaiming the simplicity of our self-care and spiritual practice. And even as we're going to take a drink of water, just taking a moment to be grateful for the water. Like, water is life and it's always listening. It's so intelligent. And so we can hold our water and we can infuse it with a self-love or a self-acceptance mantra. And we can just take that 15 seconds to connect with this element, drink that water, and then notice where and how it moves through the body. What a beautiful somatic meditation to get us in touch with our body, but then also receive the spiritual messages of the water. So let's say I was to pray into the water. I accept myself as a multi-dimensional expression of source and a child of the divine. May this water nourish me in the ways that I need it this morning. So simple, right? And then taking a drink. And then noticing where it goes, how it travels. I'm really feeling like an opening in my throat and it moving around the heart. And then it dropped down into my belly. And I'm almost seeing this like spiral in my belly now. And so again, like this very simple, playful, spiritual, childlike way of interacting with our physical reality is how we remember to be mystics. It's how we remember that life is magic, that this experience is a gift, even when it doesn't feel like it to our ego structure, or even when the parts of our inner children and inner preteens and teenagers are triggered, it's still a gift. So just want to introduce that as a practice that might be nice for the Cancer full moon this week. Maybe every day this week, you're just in a simple meditation of reconnecting to water at the most basic level, and gratitude for water at the most basic level, gratitude for food, gratitude for sleep, gratitude for shelter, gratitude for family. And it sounds so simple, but reveling in the simple things is what creates a beautiful life. And in the energy of Capricorn, there can be a preoccupation with wealth and creating more and stuff and making it to the top of that mountain. In a shadow way as well. So that shadowy sort of energy of Capricorn, that grippy energy of Capricorn, can remove us from the simple pleasures, the simple gratitude. And Capricorn is so concerned with the home. It's connected to the energy of mothering and nurturing. So what a beautiful week to reestablish our relationship with simple gratitude at the foundational level for all of the root chakra needs being met: food, water, shelter, and then at the sacral level, community, connection, the expression of our life force energy, our sexual energy, and our sensual energy, which we're going to get into in a little bit. So, a resurrection of self-acceptance. The definition of resurrection is the act or fact of bringing someone or something back to life or back into existence. In Christianity, they speak about the resurrection of ascended Master Jesus's life, and his return to life after his death. I am not a Christian and I don't teach about Christianity, but I do consider myself to be a feminist theologian, and I'm very interested in the story of ascended Master Jesus outside of the system of oppression that is modern day Christianity. And I just want to point to this energy of resurrection and resurrecting ourselves, and what that means and what that could look like in that story of ascended Master Jesus's life. Even if we just look at it from a mythological perspective, there's a crucifixion, there's a death, there is a letting go of the old self and the old life. We could even say that the energy of crucifixion is connected to tower energy in the tarot. So the tower falling and crumbling, so that the star card is the next one in the major arcana, so that from that place of absolute complete collapse and death and nothingness and stillness, there can be the creation of new life. And I think that resurrection is deeply connected to the energy of the star card in the tarot, because the star card is connected to self-care and regeneration, and resurrection is regeneration. So in the resurrection of self-acceptance, we can really just look at the last few years and how there's been a lot of death. In a very real way, human lives were lost, and just breath and acknowledgement and deep bows of reverence for that. There was also the death of old systems and cultural relational patterns. There was a lot of waking up. There was a lot of and continues to be a lot of the ugliness and the underbelly coming to the surface, like that energy of crucifixion coming to the surface, so that we can see it, so that we're not pretending like it's not happening. And in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot, we've been in a very real, living, waking, breathing meditation on the nonlinear process of metamorphosis and awakening and healing. And resurrection, right? Because resurrection holds the energy of revelation, of healing, of awakening, of ascension, of metamorphosis. It's sort of like the card that holds all of those energies. And I'm just going to give us, I pulled resurrection as one of our year cards in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot. And I'm just going to give us a visual here, the resurrection. So here you are. There's been a lot of death of old selves, old patterns, old stories, old self-concepts, old identities, so that we can, from the ashes, phoenix rise into a more fully expressed self. And that self may almost feel like it has contradicting energies. Like, I can't be, there's no way I could be all of these things at once. Is that even allowed? And that's the self-punishment and the programming of our culture, right? Am I even allowed to be this big, to be this multidimensional, to have this much contrast? And the High Priestess, which is another card of the year for us in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot membership, says yes, you actually need the underworld of your being. You actually need the shadow self. You actually need all of the different parts of yourself tuned in and turned on in order to feel home in the self, in order to feel actually authentic and fully expressed, because we aren't just one note. We are a symphony of energies. And sometimes those energies are in contrast to create a dynamic way of being, a dynamic expression that we need for our purpose work. Sometimes I'm whispering and I'm dropped in and I'm in more of this energy. And sometimes I'm like, let's fuck it up, Earth Angels. And that range of dynamic expression I have found to be so fundamental in my purpose work as a leader, as a guide, as a steward, as a coach, as a mentor, and then also in relationship to my own personal healing journey, giving ourselves permissions to be all of the things. We have dear Grace. Hi, Grace, here in the comments saying, this is so nourishing. I've been hearing and feeling a lot of softness in all areas, even those that feel more structured. I feel so affirmed by what you're saying. Oh, I'm so glad. Terrell is saying, we are a symphony of energies. That is a fact. Spirituality says, spread all the love. The world which doesn't run on spirituality shows favoritism and limits it. Yeah, because there's this programming that keeps capitalism and white supremacy and patriarchy in place, which we could just say that those are three of some of the biggest systems of oppression that are crumbling on planet Earth right now. We could say those are actually held up 11:11 on the clock by hierarchy. And I believe so deeply in my body that hierarchy and these systems of oppression are a direct expression of the way that the divine masculine and the energies of the masculine related to the mind, not necessarily gendered as men, but the energy of divine masculine as a principle connected to the mind has been the way that all of these systems have upheld their power for thousands of years, since ancient Mesopotamia and the rise of the state. Yeah, like the High Priestess, Eniduana, she was one of the ones that I pulled as a year card too, for the membership. Eniduana is a high priestess from ancient Mesopotamia. And there's a great book called Against the Grain that talks about the rise of the state and the rise of capitalism in ancient Mesopotamia. And in that space and at that time in history, women's bodies became a product of the state, and they were actually used to create class, because women were being taken from their homes and raped and oppressed in order to be pregnant, produce life, and then that became the slave class. That created a class system in the first state in ancient Mesopotamia. And since then, there's just been this constant reinforming of those systems and of that way of hierarchically relating, where we can only exist in a system where it's top down. What started happening in the last couple of years as the astrology shifted and as we're moving into the age of Aquarius and as we're moving into this golden age is now we're moving from this top-down structure into the spiral of the divine feminine, of the womb, of relating to each other in the circle. Like even me as a guide and a leader and a coach, I never relate to my clients or my community from a place of like, I know best or I know better, because that's just not, is just not my way. I am a high priestess through and through. This is not my first rodeo or lifetime. And I can feel like in my tissues, the way that we are meant to sit in the circle together and relate heart to heart, third eye to third eye, nobody above someone else. Everyone in the circle has wisdom to contribute, no matter where we are on our journeys, because guess what? Sometimes the person who's just beginning their journey has some deep wisdom to provide and offer to those of us who have been walking for maybe a decade on our path. And we need each other. We need each other. It's like the way that children are here and are able to teach their parents and remind them the meaning of life and the purpose of being here. And so without going off on too much of a tangent, that energy does feel present. And I think it's important to remember that hierarchy and the state are not our natural way of being. It hasn't always been like this. We can relate to each other in a spiralic, circular manner where we experience ourselves, even if we're online, just in a YouTube chat, in the village together. Like, I see there's 3 people here live right now. We've got Terrell and Grace in the chat. Like, we are in the village right now. We are in the circle right now. We are doing something so ancient. And may we remember that as we move into 2023, that this is an option. We can relate to each other and ourselves from a place of non-hierarchy. So, from the ash, from the rubble, from the compost of all that's been broken down, we are being called to rise and resurrect ourselves, not only based on what we lived through in this lifetime, but on behalf of our ancestors and our lineages. I believe that the people I'm here to work with are the divine disruptors in their lineage that are quite literally, again, healing backwards and forwards in ways that can't even be quantified or spoken about in words, because it's just so big. It's just so big. The energy of self-acceptance is also in direct opposition to the programming that we've all been indoctrinated into, that again holds up the fabric of capitalism, white supremacy, patriarchy, and other systems of oppression. When we accept ourselves, we don't need to buy or purchase or strive or climb or push for our belonging, which is most definitely an imbalanced energy of Capricorn and the devil card, out of balance. We don't need to sell our souls to the devil, to social media, to identity politics, or to a certain group, box, or ideology in order to feel a sense of belonging within ourselves and to belong in a community. I think there's a really dangerous thing that's happening on social media as a result of censorship, where people are quite literally scared to say what it is that they actually think and believe, because they're scared they're going to be ostracized and not belong anymore. And at the root chakra level, our belonging is a fundamental need. So that can shake us to our cores. I've said this on the drip, and I'll say it again in the words of Brene Brown: when you belong to yourself first, you belong wherever you are. This energy has been a non-negotiable meditation for me as a leader, because I'm not here to please and make people comfortable. I'm here to deliver a transmission and provide radical revolutionary containers for people to self-realize. And so as a leader, it's really important for me to be in my self-acceptance practice, because sometimes there's going to be things that I say or offer or invite people into. And this has certainly happened over the last 5 years in my private coaching practice, where there's going to be some friction. And that friction is actually what creates growth and starts sparking off the energy and starts that energy of transformation. So it's important to also welcome that and not be threatened by it. So may we walk into 2023 claiming our self-belonging first, knowing that our belonging in relationship and the way that that goes is a direct extension of how our relationship between us and us is going. So if we're feeling insecure and not accepted in our relationships with other people, that is a direct sign, signal, and invitation to get right with our relationship with ourselves before we even go in and start investigating what's going on there. Because there's going to be information that comes up in that self-investigation that's actually going to help when it comes to relational patterns with other people. In the root chakra, I belong to myself. I belong to this earth. In the sacral chakra, next point, now we're looking at our relationship to other people and other beings. So even the chakras are pointing to that map of the importance of checking in first before checking out or going to check in with other people externally, living from the inside out in 2023. I've also charted self acceptance to be deeply connected to both the sacral and the third eye chakra. In the realm of the sacral chakra, we accept that we are divine birthers and creators of new realities and relationships. We resurrect our divine birthright to be sensual and sexual and buzzing with life force, and redefining, like, what does it even mean to be sensual and sexual and buzzing with life force? Like, I am offering this drip right now as an expression of some deep sacral creative life force energy. And even though I'm not in like a sexual expression necessarily, like the energy of life force is inherently sexual, just like birth is sexual, just like death even has like a sexual, sensual energy related to it because it's in relationship with the body. So may we not rob ourselves of that just because the culture says sexuality looks like this. No, sexuality is our life force energy. It allows us to have the capacity to create, be alive, and buzz with the honey juice of source running through and coursing through our veins, our blood, and our bones. There can be this illusion, though, that we're separate from source and we're separate from that energy. We have to earn that energy. We have to find that energy. We have to resource that energy from outside of us, both in the sacral chakra and in the third eye realms. There can be this, I don't even want to say trap, but propensity to self deny, self punish, and generally just be in a clouded experience of the truth and our vision. In the sacral chakra, we claim our self intimacy. In the third eye chakra, we embody self acceptance. Then, in the alchemical energies that we're invited to work with in order to resurrect that self intimacy, self belonging, and self acceptance, we run into self denial and self punishment. So, just think about that for a second. In relationship to your creative expression and your life force, see how the consciousness of self denial could both serve as a block and a portal to claiming more intimacy with that life force within you. And then, same thing in the third eye. How does self punishment keep you from claiming your multidimensionality, your cosmic relationship with source, the self punishment that says, well, because this is all happening in the 3D and blah, 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 I have to do it this way, versus resourcing our self acceptance that we're creating this thing as we go. We are fully supported, divine, connected, seen, and resourced, even if there's this illusion that we're separate from source or that we've lost that direct connection with our spirituality. It is nothing but an illusion. And all we need to do is reclaim our acceptance that we are multidimensional, that we are our higher selves, and our capacity to choose a new belief, to choose to believe that we are not separate from source, and then create from that place in consciousness. So, how is your higher self inviting you into a study of self acceptance, of your multidimensionality, of your magic, of your capacity to dream a higher dream, believe beliefs that leave you feeling empowered versus disempowered in 2023. Self acceptance is not weak or stagnant or fixed. You don't just arrive at self acceptance, just like you don't arrive at healing. It is this continuous, metamorphic, organic experience of self reclamation. Self acceptance is grown, it's watered, it's cultivated, and then it needs to be tended to daily. So, when thinking about your daily, weekly, and monthly flow for 2023, where is there an invitation to stop, drop, and get intimate with yourself and accept what you actually want and need for this year versus what you think you want and need based on what someone else or something else planted in your head? And there's certainly so much of that happening for us as we're in this age of technology as well. And we're taking in so much information from our phone and from our computers. It can be like, where did I even like get that belief? Like, that's not even from my childhood trauma or any of it. Like, where did that come from? Meanwhile, it's maybe something that we just saw on Instagram or TikTok or whatever that because of the way the algorithm is working with our brain state and the intentionality of the programming and all of that, it can be really easy to like pick up things, just like you're picking up a virus or picking up a cold. It can be really easy to pick up a virus of the mind that doesn't even belong to you. So in our self-acceptance practice, we are doing an inventory of our mind, of our body, of our hearts. And we're accepting ourselves in our process. We're accepting that there's going to probably be a redefining of our wants and needs as we move into a new energy. And I want to pull some cards for us today to support us in working with the energy of self-acceptance as we go into this new year. So I have 7 prompts that I'm going to pull some cards from. We're going to rock it for another 40 minutes here for our card pull. And then if you're in the membership or you'd like to join us in the membership, we have our weekly higher self meditation to follow at 12:15. I offer the weekly higher self meditation starting at the $5 tier for the membership. And you also get access to the Discord and a bunch of journal prompts and movement prompts and all kinds of yummy stuff. So if you want to join us for the meditation, you can go to patreon.com/bloodboneandhoney. I'm going to link the Patreon in the description of the replay as well. And then the other tiers provide access to weekly movement classes. Like I said at the start of the drip, we have a weekly yoga dance class, a restorative yoga class, and now we're offering a mind body centering chakra flow. So that's 3 other opportunities to join us in a somatic and spiritual self-care practice to integrate what we're talking about at the cerebral level into the soma, into the body, and then into the spirit. So I'm going to copy and paste these prompts in the chat in case you want to write them in your journal. And then they'll also be in the description. They are posting in the chat all together. Oh, wait, hold on. It's going to make me do a little copy and paste moment here, half and half. So I'm going to post the first 3 prompts and then the second 3 prompts and then the last prompt. So here are the first 3 prompts. And then let's see if it'll let me do all 4 together. I haven't been on YouTube Live in about 6, maybe even 8 months. I've been offering the devotional drip as a private series in the membership. But now that we have all of these other classes, I felt so called to just come on here and start offering this as a weekly YouTube option for community members who are maybe curious about what we're up to in the membership and haven't joined us yet, or just want to tune in for this kind of transmission. And then I'm going to post our last one. So you can see in the chat, these are the 7 prompts I'm going to use to pull some cards this morning. Sometimes I pull cards before I hop on the drip, but since I had already pulled some yearly cards for the membership, like the Resurrection card and the High Priestess card, I felt called to just come on and do a fresh pull here for episode 34 live with you. You can also feel free to pull cards along with me if you'd like. And as I'm pulling these cards, and maybe as you're even sitting with these prompts and listening to what's coming through, be aware of your own transmissions. I am not your authority. I am not the authority. I am my own authority, and you're your own authority. And I'm coming into this space as a guide, offering codes, energies, things to consider, things to meditate on that can support you in arriving at your own higher self revelations. As a coach, as a guide, one of the most important things for me is operating from a place of sovereignty and really empowering all of us, including myself, to remember that we all have our own wisdom and transmissions that we're here to offer on the planet, whether we're doing that professionally or it's something that we're just doing personally in our own practice or with our community, our family. We all have something to offer. And so I invite you to also be in touch with what your higher self has to offer you this morning. As I pull some cards for us together, blowing away the ash, symbolic. Okay, so our first prompt here is, what do I need so that I can build momentum and prosper? What do I need so that I can build momentum and prosper? Feeling my Magdalene deck coming forward here. So I'm going to ask for a collective card from our higher selves around the energies of this year, around the energy of self-acceptance, resurrection, Capricorn season, Cancer season. What do I need so that I can build momentum and prosper? Spirit, what do we need? What is the highest offering for these collective of earth angels that are so devoted and work so hard and are willing, so willing? I'm getting the energy of resilience over and over and over and over and over again to return to source, to return to the breath, to return to love. What do these high holy beings need to support them in their momentum? Quite a few cards coming forward. So it's interesting. Some of these cards are also part of the year poll for the membership. So I'm going to start with those cards. These 4 cards literally also came forward already, which is always so affirming. So we have Revelation, which was our energy of 2022. We worked a lot with the energy of Revelation. So that's giving me like what was revealed last year around your needs. What do you already know, like the back of your hand, is a need that has to be met for you in order to support your momentum, in order to support your prosperity? Let it be so basic. For me, it's a consistent rise time and bedtime. That is like me as my inner parent energy of Cancer with the divine mother and Capricorn with the divine father and that inner parent energy. I need a consistent bedtime and rise time right now. What is that for you at the basic level? What was revealed to you through this last year, through the last couple of years, that's a non-negotiable for you in your prosperity? What do you need in order to prosper? Feel free to share in the chat. You can also just write in your journal. Then we have these 2 energies. Actually, let's talk about these 3 energies together of love, family, and sacred sexuality. God, I mean, could it get more like needs based than this? We all need love. We all need to feel like we belong again, which is why I just harp on the energy of having a self-belonging and self-acceptance practice, because maybe this energy of family and community is not as present in your life yet as you'd like it to be. I feel intuitively that a lot of us are building new systems and new communities, but there can be this grief of like maybe old ways of being in relationship and community shedding. And then sort of this in between space of new communities and networks building where there can be an energy of like loneliness, and I'm picking up on isolation. So just reminding ourselves that we can meet some of that isolation with our self-love practice, which is a practice of meeting our needs at the basic level, and then really like anchoring into the importance of connecting with family, connecting with community at the basic level. Do you have this built into your schedule? Are you building time to play and connect that has nothing to do with being on your phone or being on the computer or being productive? Do you have that built into your life? And then, of course, the sacred sexuality energy, we were already talking about the energy of life force and how in our self-acceptance practice, we also reclaim our connection to life force energy. So love, life force, community, knowing ourselves at the basic level, love, life force, community, knowing ourselves at the basic level. This is what our higher selves are guiding us to get in touch with so that we can prosper. It's the basics. Back to the basics. And how lovely that we get to reinvestigate what do the basics look like for us? What does back to basics look like for each of us in our higher self sovereignty? Love, life force, community, self-knowing, self-revealing, really paying attention to what got woken up last year. What do I know, like I know, like I know, like I know now that I'm being invited to resurrect, to put into action, to take action around? Because it's one thing to have the revelation, but the revelation means, it's not that it means nothing, but the revelation is only as supportive on the 3D level as the action we take to accompany it is. So we're having maybe the revelation at the spiritual level, right? At the level of the third eye. But then we need to put that revelation into action at the level of the root chakra. So it's kind of like, it's the boring stuff. Like going to bed and waking up at a consistent time doesn't excite me, but I know that it's going to produce a sense of self-love in my body. I know that it's going to help me cultivate my life force energy. And it's also going to create more time for me to be present with my family, with my beloveds, with my community, with my friends, because then we get the shit done we need to get done and we can fully unplug and rest and play and retreat. A card that I pulled as a year energy card in the membership was retreat and recharge. This is the energy that we're going to be in all year in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot. And we're going to continue to return to this because resurrection and revelation is radical, but so is rest. And in order to have our revelations, in order to resurrect ourselves and actually have the life force energy to do that, this rest and recharge is fundamental. No more pouring from an empty cup and an empty tank. That is what I'm talking about. That's an example of what I'm talking about when I speak to the cycles of suffering that are ancestral, that are so deep. And if you don't like the sound of the symphony of your life, then you probably need to change a note. This prompt is asking us at the basic level, what are those notes that you need to change in the symphony of your life so that it sounds more full? We also have past life and war and peace coming up here. So you need to acknowledge that this ain't your first rodeo. Even if you connect to this past life card on the level of like, I am a culmination of my ancestors, your healing work is not just yours. It's connected to your lineage. It's connected to your purpose. And it's also connected to all the other people that you're here to co-create with on planet Earth. Accepting that there are ways you're being called to express in this life that your soul prayed for, that has been sanctioned for you, is going to give you that momentum. It's going to give you that energy to keep moving forward when you feel like, I got nothing else to give. We can fill our cups by remembering our mission. So, what's your mission? What's been your mission for lifetimes? What are you devoted to healing like nobody's business inside of you? Let that be your motivation. Let that be your intention. Let that bring you forward. And in the moments we have war and peace, that there's dissonance between the mind and the heart. The mind says, I should do it this way. And the heart is like, baby, let's try it this way. Listen to the heart. Remember, the shoulding is connected to shame. It's connected to old cycles. It's connected to programming. And especially in the energy of Mercury retrograde, it's going to be the invitation to notice that in the moment and then redirect to our hearts. Our inner voice is what provides the fuel for our momentum forward. So at the level of basics, at the level of needs, how do you need to structure your day, your week, this season, this year, in order to create intentional space and time to rest, not just resting when we get burnt out? Because when we want to build resilience in the nervous system, we actually need to meet ourselves before the burnout. Because if we're meeting ourselves in the place of burnout and then trying to resource, that's also beautiful and lovely and amazing too. Not speaking ill will or bad about that in any way. It's so important to meet ourselves in burnout with resource. But what I'm offering is that when we meet ourselves before burnout, that's actually the space where we start to build a reservoir of resource that we can lean into in our day-to-day life so that we're not constantly operating from this feast or famine place in our nervous system. That's also why I'm offering 4 opportunities to practice weekly. I've found like 4 times a week of dropping into like deep, real practice to be a beautiful recipe for a 7-day calendar work week, whatever we've decided and agreed upon in this culture. That's like a week, even though a week is kind of like arbitrary and like what are the days of the week and like what is time. But without going too deep into that, in a 7-day week, 4 times meeting to practice, like that's going to be a way to build that reservoir of resource. So that's why I'm offering that in the membership. So, what do we need so that we can build momentum and prosper? We need to accept our needs at the basic level. We are humans, we are animals, we are plants, we are cosmic beings. And so, at the level of our planthood, our animal beingness, and our cosmic nature, we need to make sure we're meeting all of those needs so that we don't act confused and wonder why we're burnt out or wonder why it's not working, or with the energy of Capricorn, wonder why we feel like we're charging up the hill and doing the best that we can, but nothing's working. We meet that energy with back to the basics. Next prompt: what desire is ready to be physically manifested into form? What desire is ready to be physically manifested into form? I'm feeling the faceted earth deck for this. What desire is ready to be physically manifested into form this year? It's a collective desire of the earth angels. So this card of wreath is coming forward. I'm really feeling an energy of harvest. Whatever you've been working on, whatever you've been sitting on, whatever you've been cultivating and rearranging in the background, it's ready to come together, like all of the different parts of this wreath, into a cohesive plan, into a cohesive circle. Here's also the circle again, pointing to the way we were talking about relating spiralically to our own journey of healing. Healing is nonlinear, awakening is nonlinear, self-acceptance is nonlinear, higher self-embodiment is nonlinear. And then also the way we're being invited to relate to each other from this circular space where everyone is a mirror, right? We can look across the circle and whatever that person is doing, whatever it's triggering in us, it's a mirror onto our own work. So I'm feeling deeply like in the realm of manifesting our desires into physical form, it's taking all of these different pieces, all of these lessons that we've learned from this last year and arranging it in a way that is beautiful, like getting excited about what's been revealed to us. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard work, and Capricorn gets lit about that. Listen, I love some hard work. Give me a pile of wood to stack and I am your girl. Like that Capricorn energy within me, like really just loves to do a job well done. And so in the energy of in the embrace of that, in the embrace of devotion and hard work, not attached to productivity and capitalism and all the things that the systems of oppression have made hard work mean, but really claiming this balance of like, when I work hard, when I show up for my life, I make things happen. I can make things happen. Reestablishing an identity and a self-concept that is empowering, that reminds us that we can make big shit happen in the world. I'm feeling like a deep intuitive hit to invite you to reflect on times in your life when you've really made some shit happen. Maybe even last year. What did you make happen last year that you weren't sure you were going to be able to accomplish? You weren't sure you were going to be able to like manifest that into form, but you did it. And in the energy of self-acceptance and resurrecting that, there's a deep importance of also celebrating ourselves for a job well done. So what desire or desires are ready to be physically manifested into form? All of these things that have been floating around within you, all of these things you've been getting ideas and hits about, 2023 is a year to put that into action. And then even though the Chariot card of the Cancer moon is in stillness, there is also this moment that the Chariot starts moving forward. And so I'm feeling for this second prompt, like give yourself permission to move forward with what it is that you've been gathering, you've been cultivating. I made my first wreath actually for the winter solstice. And when I was collecting the branches for that, like it was that energy of gathering in order to create a cohesive shape of the circle. And maybe there's also this energy, I know I feel this for myself in my artistic practice, of things coming full circle. Great energy too to work with for retrograde, like returning and revisiting things that maybe are 30% complete or 70% complete or 90% complete, that you're now ready to bring into full completion. So what desire is ready to be physically manifested into form? It's whatever you've been working on that you're ready to bring into a state of completion. In the sacral chakra, we're creating in the inner realm. We're gestating, right? Like you can even think about a baby growing inside of a womb and the gestation process of that and the way it's connected to the sacral chakra. That's a really private inner experience that we have to create space for, that we have to accept is our responsibility. So there's that inner part of this card. So that internal inventory. And then as we move up the chakra column and we get to the realm of the throat is where we start translating these ideas, these dreams, these visions into physically manifested form. Also in our hearts, right? Like our arms and our hands are quite literally an extension of our hearts. And also in our root chakra, our legs and our feet as an extension of our root chakras. So there's this experience of taking whatever has been gestating and percolating and awakening and being cultivated and growing in our inner realm and birthing that out into the world. The full moon is also a great time to share things. So maybe this week you get that energy started. You kick off 2023 in an energy of sharing something that you've been sitting on, sharing something that you've been cultivating, sharing something that you've been building, and let the sharing of that build the momentum for the other things that you want to manifest this year. Third prompt, what aspect of my true self am I devoted to embodying? What aspect of my true self am I devoted to embodying? I'm going to pull from the Divine Feminine Oracle. Who is our higher self inviting us to notice within us? What cast of characters are being invited forward? So Parvati, the goddess of devotion, first. Yes, devotion. We're going to need this in 2023. Devotion is something that we do whether or not our ego wants to do that in the moment. And sometimes we got to parent the aspect of the inner child, the inner teenager that doesn't want to do the things that are going to bring us the thing that we want. Sometimes there's like an energy of, but I don't want to do that. Devotion says 111 on our time. That's okay. It's okay. You're safe to not want to do that and to do it anyways. Her mantra says, I am a love that doesn't leave. When I commit to love, my soul evolves. So what an energy of endurance, of staying in the fire of, we talked about that plank at the beginning, of staying in that plank and knowing that when we are in the energy of commitment, that's the energy of action. Intentions are great, but without commitment, without devotion, without action, it's like a fart in the wind. Who cares about the intention? If you're not taking the action that actually allows that intention to manifest into physical form. Parvati coming forward to say, yes, let that be the thing that you return to at every moment this year. If things are not going the way that you want, check in with your devotion. Where can you commit more to love? We also have my Chig coming forward to invite us into the nature of our own diamond heart and our diamond light. We talk a lot in the Blood, Bone, and Honey Pot about this light at the center of our heart that is our higher self, that cannot be extinguished and was actually never harmed in any of the suffering that we have endured ancestrally or in this lifetime. There is an aspect of our innocence, of our divinity, that remains untouched, that remains pure, and not pure like purity culture, pure like the light of your soul, pure. And My Chig's mantra is, I see the light in my own darkness. I face my ego beliefs to feel free. So there's this energy of like ruthless, I am not going to consent to suffering. I'm not going to let that story that keeps me playing small win this year. I am going to be in devotion to rewiring and retraining myself at every opportunity that I receive to operate in alignment with courage. And bringing in Brene Brown again, Brene Brown is a shame researcher, and she offers us that we actually can't cultivate courage without vulnerability, without the vulnerability of our devotion, because devotion is vulnerable. You show up every day and you do the thing, and it might not work automatically. It might take a whole season for something to kick into gear, but can you stay in alignment with the course that you have charted? And as it changes, can you trust the flow? Can you trust that maybe there's a part of the plan that you created that's no longer in alignment with your prayer? And so maybe there's some tower energy coming in to disrupt and destruct that, so that from that momentum of destruction, you can build something new. We have Sarada Devi, the Divine Mother, coming forward saying, unconditional love exists within me, and the presence of love is the absence of judgment. Where do you need to forgive yourself so that you can move forward? What do you need to forgive within yourself? What parts of yourself need forgiveness, acceptance, so that they can feel like they're invited to come play, to come co-create with you? Who's been outcast that's getting invited to the show again? Because their wisdom is fundamental. For me, in the parenting and the integration of my own inner child, like I said earlier, I know a huge need for me this year is a consistent bedtime and rise time, so that I can work more with the magical essence of my inner child versus the resistant tantrum like energy that comes forward when we're depleted and not rested enough, right? So that's my personal example. I'm going to forgive myself for burnout. I'm going to forgive myself for moments where I let that cranky, tantrumy inner child take the wheel. And I'm going to forgive myself for the infinite amount of times that's going to probably happen again this year. But I'm going to stay in devotion to my intention and my commitment to parent that child so that they are stable enough to shine and share their magic into what it is that I'm here to offer. What's that for you? What aspect of your true self are you devoted to embodying? I am so devoted to embodying more of a childlike energy of play that I'm willing to take the action of parenting my inner child, so that play isn't a reward, it's a part of the fabric of my daily life. And that also came forward with our first set of cards, right? With this energy of life force and family and love. So, what aspect of your true self are you devoted to embodying by means of dropping judgment, dropping into devotion, and facing your ego beliefs so that you can be more free? Last card, Ariadne, the mistress of the labyrinth. I love this for this spiralic energy that we've been in today. When it comes to the labyrinth, the only way out is through, and it is a spiral and it is a circle, and it's not necessarily like the Capricorn energy of charting straight up the mountain. In this mountainous territory, there is a spiralic path up that mountain. And maybe for you, there's a spiralic path down into the ocean because you need more of that down into the ocean energy than you need up to the mountain. Or maybe there's a combination of both. In your stewardship, Ariadne points to our how do I want to translate this? Our acceptance. Thank you. Our acceptance that it's going to be a spiral, and the contrast, again, bringing in the contrast of the pain and the pleasure, the fear and the love, the shame and the reclamation. All of that is working together. And I'm like seeing a lab and like a bubbling experiment coming up. All of that is working together in the labyrinth to support us in our awakening. And the labyrinth is also used as a metaphor to talk about the journey of being a human, the journey of ascension, the journey of meeting our life as a mystery school. And I highly recommend the movie The Labyrinth for some visual activations around that journey. I find that watching movies from the perspective of like, I'm doing this as a part of like my spiritual research and my self-care research and my personal development research can be really helpful to point our consciousness in the direction of creative solutions. So Ariadne says, my soul knows the way and the only way out is through. And we have that My Chig card telling us that we're going to need to face our ego beliefs to feel free. So again, the surrender to the inner voice, the surrender to the acceptance that we have an inner guidance system that is always wanting to point us in the direction of more love, more life, more prosperity, is going to also allow us to see when we're following a trail of consciousness that's taking us away from that energy. I want to go on to our next prompt, which is, what allows me to feel love in my body every day? What allows me to feel love in my body every day? Woo! Oh my gosh, my cards just completely fell on the floor and 3 popped out. What allows me to feel more love every day? I love this. Okay, so we have birth and death. So again, here's the labyrinth, birth and death, knowing that it's a journey, that every day there's going to be parts that die and new parts that get born. I think in the energy of the earth grid shifting, a day right now can feel like a whole lifetime. And we can almost like learn lessons in a day that would happen potentially over a lifetime for our ancestors. So there's a lot of potential of birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. What do we need as an absolute fundamental, no questions asked as a part of that cactus card? Water, resource. So what allows me to feel more love every day in my body? The energy of water and watering ourselves is connected to self-compassion. So how do your self-compassion and your self-acceptance want to dance together to support you in embodying a more fully expressed version of yourself? So every day in the labyrinth, facing our ego beliefs, surrendering and deferring to love, being in our devotion, being on this journey of radical self-acceptance and manifesting these things this year, taking action this year and birthing our visions and our dreams into form, we're going to have to make sure that we're watering ourselves daily. And what's your water? Water is life. So what gives you life every day? What gives you life? What's your unique cocktail and recipe of self-care activities, artistic activities, relational activities? What do you need to do every day to get you in touch with love? These cards are specifically pointing to softness and compassion around the death birth cycle that's just going to keep happening. This feels like it's pointing to it's going to be another year of massive metamorphosis. So what do you know now about metamorphosis now that you've been on this journey for a minute? Even if you haven't consciously claimed you've been on a spiritual awakening journey, I think most people watching this, though, have already claimed that they're on a journey of awakening. So what have you learned so far that you specifically need on your journey so that you don't feel all dried up and left out in the cold and left out in the storm with no water? It's like when you see a plant and it's all dehydrated and it's sad. Where and how do you need to meet that energy inside of you? How does that energy need to be loved? What does it want? Ask the dehydrated, shriveled up energy and aspect of yourself, what does it need in order to feel love? What do you need to do every day? For me, like I said, the consistent rise time and bedtime. I love my morning cacao. I need to move my body every single day. I love to adorn myself intentionally. That brings me joy. Keeping my temple and my home in an organized space brings me joy. Closing my phone and turning it off when I have time to spend with my husband and my animals and my friends, and really creating, like Capricorn and Cancer are inviting us into this week, a work-life balance, that allows me to feel love every day and bring me joy. So if you're this plant, and we did a huge meditation yesterday in the membership on like being a plant and tending to each of our 7 main chakras as their own plants and what do they need for the upcoming year. Really, really beautiful journey. But if you're your own plant inside of this terrarium of your life that you can create the conditions for. We can't control everything, right? But there are conditions that we can create for ourselves. What conditions you need to create for the plant, for the living creature that is you, in order to feel more love every day? We're going to hop on our meditation in about 15 minutes. So I'm going to buzz through these last 3 questions. And feel free, again, to pull cards for these questions yourself and see how they interact with the collective cards that I'm pulling. What would feel nourishing to express more of? And then what aspect of the self is ready to be revealed, resurrected, and integrated? I want to combine both of those questions for the sake of time. And also, they're similar in nature. So let's see how they can dance together. What would feel nourishing to express more of? And then what aspect of self is ready to be revealed, resurrected, and integrated? So we already pointed to some aspects of ourself that we're devoted to embodying. The part of us that knows that life is a nonlinear labyrinth-like journey. The part of us that knows that unconditional love exists inside of us and has the capacity to offer that to ourselves. The part of ourselves that can be fiercely devoted, and the part of ourselves that is willing to face our ego beliefs in order to feel free. Those parts are aspects of our true self that have already come forward, inviting us to embody them in 2023. And now, what would feel nourishing? What parts of ourselves would feel nourishing to express more of? I'm going to pull a Cosmic Dancer card for this. And then, in relationship to that, what's ready to be revealed, resurrected, and integrated? Choreograph. Just one card. So simple. So this is giving me, again, that self-authorship, that self-authority, the self-acceptance that is required, the self-acceptance of our needs, the self-acceptance of our wants, of our desires, of what it is that we want to manifest into the world, so that we can then choreograph it. Look at this being creating from light. This light is being emanated from inside of them, and they're working with what it is that they're receiving on the inside, and they're sending those revelations out into the world. So it's the aspect of ourself that is the author, that is the creatrix, that is the leader. Like if there's any stories around like, I am not the author of my life, or my life is out of my control, or yeah, just any disempowering stories around not having the capacity to create, return to the needs at the basic level, return to the breath, get yourself some water, eat a meal, make sure all the basic needs are met, and then sit down and be in an investigation with yourself around, okay, there's this story that this thing that is coming up in my life right now, I don't have any power around, or there's no way that I could change it, or whatever the story is for you. And then meet that with the energy of, actually, I'm here to choreograph my life. And choreography as a dancer, I will say, is a co-creation. Like, to choreograph is to also receive a transmission. When I go to choreograph our weekly classes, our movement classes, I am in a meditative state of receiving the transmission. So we talked about this a lot already in the drip. So this feels like a really integrating card to remind us that in the process of resurrecting our self-acceptance, there's also this resurrection of our co-creating with reality in every moment. The resurrection of our power, 12:02 on the clock, the resurrection of our inner wand, of our inner light, of our inner voice, of the way that, as we talked about in the womb and the throat, we are here to translate codes. So I'm going to say that the aspect of us that would feel nourishing to express and be integrated and revealed and resurrected is the part of us that's truly in this communion with source energy. Us self-identifying as channels, us self-identifying as intelligent beings that have the capacity to receive transmissions and then take those transmissions and create something with them in physical form. So resurrect your inner cosmic choreographer. How do you want to choreograph? How do you want this dance to go? Knowing that, again, sometimes you make some choreography, you try it out, and then something needs to shift. So in the energy of flow, the presence of love is the absence of judgment. So choreographing it like Capricorn is inviting us to do, creating a plan, and then in the energy of Cancer, remember that there's water. Remember that you can flow. Remember that the most, in my opinion, powerful art comes from a place of direct connection with the source. You can create art from all kinds of frequencies, but what is it to create the art, construct the ceremony of your life from a resonance of love, from a resonance of your own inner light, accepting that you have the capacity to actually do this. Like, you can do this. And you don't even need to necessarily learn how to do it. It's a remembering of ourselves as multidimensional cosmic beings. I am this multidimensional. I am this cosmic. I am the choreographer of my life. I am devoted to living like that's the truth. And in any moment that an ego belief takes me out of that idea, or an old program from the past pops up, I'm looking for my past lives card, but I think I threw it when I was moving the cards around. We can meet that energy of the past and scoop ourselves up into the present moment and choreograph using all of the energies, that whole symphony, like we were talking about before, knowing that even sometimes the notes that are off key are pointing us to where we can create harmony. So whatever's out of resonance is also inviting us into resonance. So then nothing is a threat. The fear isn't a threat, and the ego beliefs are not a threat. They're just a pointer. They're just a dial in our inner guidance system that are actually here to help us evolve. Without the fear, without the integration of the ego, we wouldn't have the contrast that's pointing us towards our healing and pointing us towards our light. I want to introduce our last prompt here before we complete for episode 34 of The Drip and go into our higher self meditation for the week. Our prompt is how am I ready to receive more celestial and earthly support? How am I ready to receive more celestial and earthly support? I'm going to again call from our Cosmic Dancer deck. How am I ready to receive more celestial and earthly support? Couple of cards came forward. So let's weave these into a story. So this feels earthly. This feels earthly. This feels earthly. These feel cosmic. Okay. So we've pulled this card quite a few times in the membership since August. This card points to letting go of niceness and the performance of niceness in favor of true kindness towards self. I'm intuitively feeling boundaries around this. And on the earthly level, boundaries allow us to create container. And when we can create a container, that means there's more freedom to create inside of that container in a way that feels supported, grounded, contained versus splayed out. We also have this energy of slowing down and being authentic. In order to be authentic, we do need to slow down, because when we're just running, operating, it's just the subconscious tape playing. It actually requires us to slow down, connect to our breath, and tap into our primal power to be in our most authentic expression. So, on the earthly level, set boundaries, slow down, create quiet space and time that almost has a texture of boredom. It's so quiet, so that you can receive your higher self downloads and celestial transmissions from a place of being in your body. What I want to say about receiving transmissions and downloads from a place of disembodiment or disassociation is that it can really spin you out. If you're a highly sensitive, psychic, intuitive person, the body has to be the main meditation and devotion. The more you meet the needs of your body at the basic level, the more your intuition will actually heighten in response to your embodiment. So, how do I support myself at the earthly and celestial level? Boundaries, needs, containment, slow down, and get quiet. Get quiet, because from that place of being quiet, that's where we improvise. And all good choreography comes from improvisation, because this improvisation points to a communication with spirit. Like this, before this all can come out, there needs to be the experience of receiving the transmission within. And that can only happen when we're like this, when we're like this, and when we're so fierce around our boundaries and our needs. Like, I'm going to be fierce around my bedtime and my rise time this year, because I just have to, with all of the devotions that I've made. It's just a non-negotiable for me. We have to be in that non-negotiable energy for ourselves. Like, there is a strength. There is a strength that we're being called into. And strength is a result of devotion. You build strength through devotion. You build strength through commitment. Who said something about commitment? Parvati. I am a love that doesn't leave. When I commit to love, my soul evolves, the goddess of devotion. So when we commit, like, this is the energy of commitment and devotion. When we squat down to the earth and we commit to accepting what it is that we need, accepting that we're multidimensional, accepting that we need time and space daily to receive our transmissions, then they're going to come through. Then we're going to be able to choreograph and co-create our lives with our higher selves. And what does that result in? You're going to sparkle and shine. You're going to sparkle and shine. But just like you got to like wash that dish in the sink to actually reveal the shine, you're going to have to let yourself get scrubbed down by spirit this year and accept the both beautiful and messy parts of metamorphosis, of birth and of death. Like, look at this. Look at these cards. There's so much water, there's so much movement, there's so much life force. And so as we're going through this, it really is going to require us to slow down and be present, be authentic, be in our authorship of our lives. At the level of earth, at the level of the 3D, so at the level of the 4 and the 5D, we can receive our transmissions and our downloads, and then we've actually created a container and the space to put those into action. What, again, container? What's the terrarium you need to create for your life so that you, as this plant creature, living organic creature and multidimensional being, can thrive? A resurrection of self-acceptance in 2023. What we want, what we need, and what is going to be required for us to commit and devote ourselves to in order to get there. And remember, we don't have to like it in every moment, and we certainly don't need to be comfortable. There's a difference between like our comfort zone and then actually creating true safety for ourselves. And maybe you do some investigation in your journaling about that. Like, what's the difference between the comfort zone as you have created it in order to navigate and survive your life up until this point. And then what's the difference between that and like creating actual real safety? Because real safety is in relationship to our root chakra, which is in relationship to our deep needs at the foundational level. You want to be a safe space for yourself. Be your own inner parent and meet your needs and be unwilling to admit defeat. Surrender and surrendering to divine love and surrendering to the mystery and surrendering to the way that the mystery and our higher self are constantly steward and reshaping us is very different than the energy of giving up and throwing in the towel. Surrender is an art. Giving up is what happens when we're burnt out. And if we've thrown in the towel, if you're in that energy right now when you're listening to this, you always can begin anew, right? And I hope that today I've provided some opportunities for you to be in the research lab with your own mind, body, and heart and connect with the ways that you need to resource yourself so that you don't feel so burnt out, so that you don't feel so dried up. Because remember, that's not a fixed state either. That's not a death sentence. And whatever is dying, whatever is being eaten up by the soil and the great mother is also part of you being able to rebirth yourself. That is our transmission today for a resurrection of self-acceptance. I'll see those of you who are joining us for our higher self meditation on Zoom in a few minutes, and many, many blessings in the meantime. I hope that you enjoy your Cancer full moon. And if you're joining us on the replay and you'd like to share some of your insights and your downloads and your biggest takeaways in the chat, we would love to hear from you. If you're in the membership, you're always welcome to comment on our Discord and our post-class discussion altar. And if you have not subscribed to the Blood, Bone, and Honey YouTube channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and you'll be notified when we go live weekly. Many blessings, dear ones. Such an honor to explore with you. And I hope that your journey of resurrecting your self-acceptance and your multidimensional self in 2023 is invigorating and inspiring and regenerative. And I'm so excited to keep exploring and journeying with you this year as we embody our higher selves. Namaste. Bye.